This is what Morocco had, what every country wants. What is the first thing that comes to your mind hearing the aforementioned heading? It is an abundance of oil, gas, coal. Guess what? It is phosphate. That's right, the ingredient used in fertilizers to produce crops. And why does every country yearn for it? Well, let's delve right into it. As the world's population exploded, scientists discovered something shocking in 2010, that phosphate, a main ingredient in fertilizer, was about to go extinct from our world within the next 50 years. Since it was impossible to artificially produce them, this has been the concern for the whole world, with countries like China banning its export altogether. This brings us back to the question in hand, that Morocco has what every country wants. You guessed right, phosphate. It's important to note that Morocco is the world's top exporter of phosphate, an essential component of fertilizers, and that the nation has sizable deposits of this material. Moroccan phosphate reserves are thought to be 50 billion tons, or around 75% of the world's reserves. For their agricultural needs, many nations, especially China, India, and the United States, primarily rely on Moroccan phosphate. This has caused some people to worry that there might one day be competition for access to Moroccan phosphate supplies. Although there have been some geopolitical tensions in the area, it's important to note that Morocco has so far been able to maintain control over its phosphate reserves. In addition, Morocco has collaborated with other nations to harvest and produce phosphate and has made investments in its technology and infrastructure to increase the productivity of its phosphate sector. Additionally, it has attempted to diversify its economy to lessen its reliance on other phosphate exports. Overall, it's important to note that Morocco is taking steps to manage this important resource and ensure its sustainable development, even though it is impossible to completely rule out the possibility of competition for access to Moroccan phosphate reserves. The likelihood of this competition turning to an armed confrontation is therefore low. Morocco has become a gatekeeper of the world's food supply networks thanks to its vast manufacturing capacity and international reach in the phosphate fertilizer business. Because of all food crops, indeed all plant life, need the element phosphorus to develop, and Morocco is home to more than 70% of the world's phosphate rock reserves, from which the phosphorus used in fertilizer is obtained. Morocco is crucial to the world's food security. Unlike other limited resources like fossil fuels, phosphorus has no substitute. Morocco has improved its economy and improved its standing abroad by switching from only exporting raw materials to becoming one of the world's top exporters of fertilizer. The kingdom's blend of joint venture partnerships in local fertilizer, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. Morocco has improved its economy and improved its standing abroad by switching from only exporting raw materials to becoming one of the world's top exporters of fertilizer. Particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, the kingdom's mix of joint venture partnerships in regional fertilizer production and skillful direct outreach to farmers has led to a notable increase in African agricultural yields and the expansion of Morocco's soft power influence across the continent. Morocco's role in the global commercial system, ensuring both the supply and price of fertilizer, will become even more crucial to the stability and affordability of food supplies in 2023, with the majority of economic indicators pointing to a continuation or even worsening of the already high levels of global food inflation. The success of Morocco's efforts to achieve energy transition through the growth of its renewable energy industry will ultimately determine how well it plays its position as a gatekeeper of the world's food supply networks. Morocco might break free from the downward spiraling price cycle in the food, energy, water nexus by using its abundant solar energy resources to power green hydrogen and green ammonia production, in addition to desalination. Morocco's role in the global commercial system, ensuring both the supply and price of fertilizer, will become even more crucial to the stability and affordability of food supplies in 2023, with the majority of economic indicators pointing to a continuation or even worsening of the already high levels of global food inflation. The success of Morocco's efforts to achieve energy transition through the growth of its energy industry will ultimately determine how well it plays its role as a gatekeeper of the world's food supply networks. Exports of green products like green ammonia and green hydrogen could encourage other nations to follow suit. Green hydrogen and green ammonia could help produce even more affordable, higher crop yields that would stop the rise in hunger and energize the long-awaited African green revolution in food production. OCP's fertilizer manufacturing facilities in sub-Saharan Africa are scheduled to start up over the next 3 years. For Morocco and the rest of the world, the situation is serious. To develop a viable, carbon-neutral fertilizer sector, the monarchy needs to make further multi-billion-dollar infrastructure expenditure. These investments give the US and EU the chance to increase their level of strategic involvement with Morocco. If such engagement is not made, Morocco will collaborate with other regional and international actors, changing the geopolitics of food security around the world. Phosphate is the most exported mineral in the world, and Morocco's reserves are an important source of income for the nation. However, Morocco is not necessarily more exposed to dangers than other nations with valuable natural resources because of the abundance of phosphate. Despite this, the export and mining of phosphate are not without risk. For instance, there have been worries about the effects of phosphate mining on the environment because it can cause soil deterioration and water pollution. The ownership and management of phosphate deposits has also been a cause of contention, both within Morocco and with neighboring nations. There have been various suggestions in recent years for the nationalization of Morocco's state-owned companies' dominated phosphate industry. Opponents contend that foreign corporations are enriching themselves at the cost of Moroccan citizens from the country's resources, and that nationalization may guarantee that the advantages of phosphate mining are distributed more fairly. Other countries that the current state of state-owned firms is efficient, and that nationalization might result in inefficiency and corruption. Overall, despite some risks and difficulties related to Morocco's phosphate reserves, it is unlikely that the nation will face serious threats due to its abundance of phosphate alone. Amid the devastating war between Russia and Ukraine and its disruption of the world's food supply chain, a global food crisis looms large on the horizon. Morocco's phosphate reserves are the key to boosting food production internationally and sparing the world an apocalyptic global famine. According to a new analysis by the Middle East Institute, Morocco is redefining itself as a major actor in the global arena with intentions to boost its fertilizer output by about 70%. This report examines the evolving political and economic dynamics during the conflict in Ukraine. This choice is anticipated to counteract Russia's suspected use of food-energy nexus as a weapon to put pressure on and undermine its Western adversaries. One of the major liabilities for both Europe and Africa is that all 27 members of the European Union rely on the Russian Federation for 30% of their fertilizer needs. Morocco is currently the fourth largest supplier of fertilizer worldwide. If it were to raise production by just 10% in 2022, it was to bring an additional 1.2 million tons to the global market by the end of the year. This is where the phosphate and Morocco play a pivotal role. It is essential to world agriculture and food production. Phosphate is a crucial component of fertilizers, which are used to boost crop yields and raise food output. It is also a necessary component for plant growth. Morocco is the top exporter of phosphate, therefore its vast reserves have a big impact on the safety of the world's food supply. Moroccan phosphate can help the world in numerous ways besides only directly affecting agriculture. For instance, phosphate is used in a wide range of industrial processes to make chemicals, detergents, and animal feed. Given that it is an essential component of some types of batteries, phosphate can also be used in the production of renewable energy because it is an essential part of some batteries. Morocco has made large investments in the growth of its phosphate sector. As a result, it has realized the potential of phosphate reserves to support economic growth and development. To increase the productivity of this phosphate sector, the nation has invested its infrastructure and technologies as well as partnerships with other nations to extract and process phosphate. Morocco has also worked to diversify its economy away from phosphate exports and has aimed to foster entrepreneurship and innovation in other fields. Phosphate from Morocco has a lot of potential to help the world, both in terms of food production and industrial uses. But it's critical to make sure that phosphate mining and export are done sustainably and responsibly, taking into account the economic, social, and environmental effects of this important resource. Overall, even though there have been in the past disagreements over who owns and controls the phosphate resources, it is extremely unlikely that other nations will steal Moroccan phosphate given the nation's tight control over its industry and export. Morocco has taken steps to safeguard its natural resources and assure their sustainable development. It has also demonstrated resiliency in the face of several difficulties and regional geopolitical conflicts. So, here you go. The world is not that bad of a place as we have thought. Or is it?